Yeah, live from Hagerstrom Studios, 27A. This is ManDate, episode 73 with Con and Jacqui Reader, the founder and owner of Edna Jean Vintage.
Hello, ManDate. How are things in the ManDate world?
Things in the ManDate world are pretty fantastic. Very, very epic, and a lot of things are happening, and everything's good. So we asked Jacqui to come on as part of my MBA thesis research, and she gladly accepted, and she's here to talk about her business growth, and her managerial strategies of her business. So without further ado, Jacqui, would you tell us a little bit about Edna Jean Vintage?
Yeah, no problem. So, I work from this beautiful space that you see here, which is the office in my house that I live at. So I started the company. It's a vintage clothing company right now, predominantly for women.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started the company early this year. So basically January 2nd, 2015, I decided that I was going to start selling some of the awesome pieces that I had in my shop. My shop is only about 70 pieces right now. It's online via Etsy. So I do right now have it on a platform where there are clientele that are being driven to my shop just from searching the Etsy site itself. I also have my own Facebook account, Instagram, and I run a Tumblr blog as well. So again, other ways to drive people to my shop. Right now, it's only online. That said, we are doing a few markets, and I'm based out of Calgary, Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
So we are doing a few markets in the Calgary area. Again, it's mostly vintage clothing, anywhere from 1940s. I have some pieces like dresses from then, and then all the way up until our classic mid 90s, and I do have some contemporary pieces as part of a consignment, but that's sort of a separate thing. So it's predominantly vintage from the 40s to the 90s. So
Okay.
just really trying to drive that clientele that is interested in bringing older trends back, and quality clothing, the way it's made, as well as fabrics. So.
Okay. So could you tell us a little bit about your customers and what kind of clientele your store is oriented to? You said women, and especially women who are interested in bringing some fashion back. Could you elaborate on that a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say my ideal, if we're looking at it from what my ideal client would be, I would say it's somebody that values I guess a well-fitted garment. It's something that I would say my ideal client also appreciates I guess trends that never fail. So whether that's like a classic black cocktail dress, or just a great pair of pants that never goes out of style. And I would say, for the most part, they would be anywhere from like early 20s to late, or I guess early 40s. So it is, I mean, anybody could wear the clothing, but I would say that would definitely, women in their 20s and 30s would definitely be who my client is. Also, somebody that isn't afraid to spend a little bit more money. So it's basically people that don't want to go to Goodwill, go to the thrift store themselves, but they love having a great classic piece that you wouldn't be able to buy at, say, Forever 21 or even Anthropologie. Anything that isn't new, they want something unique to them that no one else in the world has. So that's where I go through and dig, and my eye would find those pieces for them. So definitely unique individuals.
Right on. And can I ask how you got started in this? How come you decided to start this, and how come you decided to go with the online platform?
Yeah, definitely. Well, for the online platform specifically, there is very little overhead. So for me to work out of my home, which I was already doing I do some sales for some contract work, some for a PR company, in Calgary, as well as I had been already started working in the fashion industry with a friend of mine here in Calgary. Again, we were working from home. So I knew that I could work from home. I know for some people they struggle with motivation and that, but I knew I could do that. Very little overhead online. You don't have to have employees at a shop at a certain time. You don't require to have the lights on basically. So that's why I'm based out of my house. But I started this shop. It was kind of an epiphany day, I guess. I realized my closet was overrun with clothing. And all vintage stuff that I'd collected over the years, and honestly, pieces I would just never feel comfortable giving away. I wanted them to go to a good home, but I honestly didn't have room for it, and I realized these pieces needed to find a good home, and I have a business degree from the University of Lethbridge. I've worked in sales for many years in all different industries, everything from travel to oil and gas to hospitality. All sorts of to marketing itself, and so I decided, I think I have the skill set to do this, put this together, and I now have the items because these are just pieces in my closet that I've never worn. Literally, tags still on. Those little tags from the Goodwill shop, but tags still on, and if I could present it the proper way, it could be a hit and a success for me as well as for my clients that are interested in the products. So.
Definitely. 2 quick questions. Where do you get your new items, and do you sell just to women in Calgary, or do you sell outside of Calgary as well?
So being based on Etsy, I actually will ship internationally. So it's for everyone around the globe. Shipping is actually more expensive in Canada than it is, say, to ship to Australia. So you'd be surprised. It's kind of sad, actually, Canada Post. But I with the markets and stuff, getting out to face with clients, that'll definitely be in the Calgary, Alberta area, potentially in Edmonton. As well, to just once we see how the markets go. So yeah, we ship worldwide. What was your second question?
So where do you get your new items from? Because you said
where do I get the new items from? So there's a variety of places. So I can find some vintage stuff. I actually have purchased some off eBay. That is not my favorite because I really would rather see the item firsthand, see how well it fits. My favorite spots are small town local thrift shops. So, with my old job, I used to work for an oil and gas service company. So I would be up in Edson, Alberta, or Sundre, or Lloydminster, and you go out there to some of the smaller towns, and there's some great finds in there because a lot of people aren't searching for what I'm looking for. They don't know potentially the quality of what they're looking at. As well, there's a great thrift store just up the road from my house, which is where I go, and really I look for stuff that I would want to wear. There's some things I've really been diversifying in the sizes. Obviously, prior I would be looking for something that would fit me specifically, and then now I've really been able to. It's great because I've expanded what I'm able to purchase based on. It's not limited to size anymore. Now I'm able to find pieces that maybe were a bit too small or a bit larger for me, but that had great potential. Also, I do find some pieces at those at the charity shops or thrift stores, and I actually have I take them to a woman that does some seamstress work for me, and I'll switch out buttons to make it so it's kind of like the bare bones are there. It just needs a bit of a spruce up, so I'll change a button or two, or if there's a rip in a pocket, ensure that's fixed. And honestly, it just makes the piece so much more wearable and a lot more beautiful. So I also alter every now and then.
Cool. And if you could tell us a bit how you plan to expand your current business, how do you want to grow it?
Yeah, great question. So that's kind of at the stage that I'm at right now is how do I drive more clients to my shop, which means I get to go out and do my favorite thing, which is go search for awesome pieces. So there's a few things. So like I said, there's a couple markets coming up in the Calgary region. So I'm going to be at, there's this club called Commonwealth in Calgary. As I'm sure, Connor, you may or may not have attended once or twice before.
I know very well.
So Commonwealth actually does this thing called Commonwealth Collectors Club on it's one Sunday, like every few months, they do a sort of market. And there's also a market called Market Collective in Calgary, where different artisans, people who have either jewelry and pieces that they make themselves, whether it's like leather work or pottery, all the way to vintage clothing. It's very similar to that. And so expanding out into, I'm going to be there April 12th. So I'll get an opportunity to see firsthand what clients are thinking, have face-to-face conversation, be able to adjust, you know, is this too expensive for my key clientele? Because that is really the people I'd be looking at attracting, are the people that would be interested in these markets. So potentially doing Commonwealth Collectors Club will allow me to get an understanding of what the where I'm at, and if I'm kind of on the right track with my clientele, and then potentially from there doing more of that face-to-face, I think is going to be sort of the next step to expanding in addition to my online business. So that's a big part, but also really expanding my blog and my SEO, really getting, ensuring that anytime anybody's searching vintage clothing, it's really huge on social media, making sure that I'm on point with that. So it's really expanding out and pushing more of my social media, ensuring my hashtags are right and all of that. It's really, really crucial. So just really being more focused on my social media, as well as connecting with other vendors, potentially jewelers, that I can do collaborations with. So that's kind of the next step, the next stage with the business, I think.
Do you ever see yourself owning a brick-and-mortar shop?
A brick-and-mortar shop? Like, do I ever see myself like running a business that'll be open from like 8 till 5 and
yeah, like do you ever see yourself having
you know, I was just having that conversation yesterday, and I do see potential for it right now. The overhead for me wouldn't make sense with the amount of sales that I've made at this point. But going into the future, I would not hesitate for a second to open up a shop if sales got to that point. So I definitely follow a lot of other women that have come before me. So when you look at Sophia Amoroso with Nasty Gal, and some of the women that she works with as well, it's really fascinating to see how quickly your online business can extend to a physical shop. It really, I think it's a progression though, and I definitely would do it if the opportunity was there, and I saw, you know, a great potential to maximize my profits for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if you could just tell us a little bit about what kind of managerial strategies you have that you implement to sort of achieve your growth goals.
Well, my managerial style right now, it's managing myself and my time. So I do have a few other projects on the go. I have a part-time job at the moment and a few other things. So it's really making sure that I'm on point with what I'm doing, and I'm getting, say, my shipments out, setting up my social media, and really managing my own personal time. So right now, because I'm a sole proprietor and I'm the only person that works for me, that can be tricky. I definitely, you know, like I said before, you have to have that motivation, and some days it's there and some days it's not. I think the way that I've been managing it at the moment is setting myself timelines. So I actually will set in my calendar a point of today we're pushing out social media, like this day, or you know, by noon today is when I will have my blog written and pushed out, and making sure that it's consistent, because I think especially when you look at social media, that's important. And then also giving myself a time frame. So within, if there's been an order made, ensuring that I connect with that client and have the order shipped out within a 2-day time frame. So it's all, I have these sort of unwritten rules for myself as a way to manage my time best and ensure that I'm progressing, I guess. Managerial style, quite laid back, I would say too.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a managerial style in itself.
Yeah. So laid back but consistent and I mean, really, as an entrepreneur, you have to be accountable for you. Really, you have to make sure that you're the only one that you're answering to. So you're the one that's taking the bull by the horns, and so accountability is a big one.
Okay. Now, just wrapping up the questions here. One last one is, what do you see as a potential threat to your business growth, either internally or externally?
Definitely. So internally, it would be if I were to be offered another position. So I have been applying to jobs, so actually with apparel companies. And so if I were to get a full-time job, I could see that stifling the growth, as I may not be able to be as consistent or have as much flexibility as I have at the moment with my with the business, as well, that there might come a point, fingers crossed, that as things grow and progress, we become busier, and then ensuring that I have enough time with all my other obligations. So that's a big internal. External, I would say a big challenge or threat that might happen. I mean, the biggest threat is the rising amount of online shops, the amount of individuals that are flooding Tumblr and Instagram with vintage clothing, and really trying to compete with other people that have been doing it consistently and have a great client base. That may be a big threat, and people just becoming complacent to, or like my ideal clientele becoming complacent to seeing too many other products. So that could potentially be a threat. That said, my overhead is not, it's barely anything. I have very little cost, so for me to keep it going, it would just be the growth of it, I guess. It exists already. Also, another threat might be if Etsy were to shut down, then I would have to create my own platform in that. So that's another threat. So.
Okay, just two final questions here. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. If would you consider switching platforms out of curiosity if a different one came around that was better than Etsy, or does a lot of your clients and business rely heavily on Etsy?
Great question. At this point, I would say it's useful, but if there were another platform, I would definitely consider it. That was, offering certain like advertising or had a certain client base, or potentially even using my own. So there, you are able to. In the past, I've worked with Shopify is another platform that you're able to use as a back-end system, and they're fantastic. I guess I would definitely consider switching. It would have to have the same, the low cost. And it would have to be worth my while. So really, like Etsy, there is limitations for sure to the platform I'm using. That said, cost is very low. If I did gain enough of my own client base, then I would potentially look at doing my own shop, say through Shopify, to be able to customize it a bit more for myself. But at this point, Etsy is a great platform, so I'd consider it. But yeah.
Okay, and just one final question. I know I've taken up a lot of your time here, but just one final question. What sort of sets you apart from your competitors? I mean, you said one of the hindrances to your company externally was that there's a lot of other companies and retail companies selling vintage, used women's clothing. So what kind of sets you apart from your competitors?
I would say my biggest asset is my own personal style, and I think when you look at a lot of the other shops, they have their own specific style. So some of that might be like rockabilly, for example, or just general, like cut-off T-shirts, with Mickey Mouse on it or something like that. Whereas I think that my eye for is very specific to my own style, so that's definitely my number one asset. And then also what sets me apart is a great customer service. I've gotten some good feedback on Etsy, which is fantastic. Just kind of adding those little touches, communicating with my clients when I've sent something, or if they have any issue, I'm really addressing that. So and just it's nice to add little touches. I throw in like a little sort of vintage retro candy every or a little handwritten note, just a way to sort of touch base with my clients and let them know that to come back, and that I would do anything for my customers to return. Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good answer. I like that. Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you would like to add or say, or?
No, I don't know. I started writing a blog about thrifting, so hopefully that starts to take off. Just about like how other people can potentially look at thrifting, because I know, like, yeah, I can procure stuff for people, but also it's super fun, and just to encourage people to do it. So if anybody's interested, check it out.
Yeah.
vintage.tumblr.com, I think.
Well, you just send me the link, and I can post it and
Sweet.
Help promote it. Well, I wanted to thank you very much for coming on the show, and with that, we'll sign off the podcast and the research.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks, Connor.
All right. Take care, Jacqui.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.